Hey guys, well, new set is out, and that means we're going to be opening new packs. This is Throne of Eldraine. I've already sliced into the plastic a little bit there. And then we do have, with each of the boxes we are opening, we did get from our store a collector's pack. Picked this up at the pre-release this last weekend, so we'll be able to open that and that for you guys today. Save the collector's pack for some point in the middle. Maybe all the way to the very end, maybe some point in the middle. We'll have to decide. If you've never seen one of my Magic the Gathering packs, know that I'm doing this live on Twitch at the same time, so you will see donations coming in. Oh, thank you to Phoenix Diva. Appreciate you. I like to double dip. I like to do these live on live streams so people can see the excitement live. If you ever want to check me out, it's twitch.tv/boogie2988. Or if you miss the live streams on Twitch, you can always come here to Boogie Plays and watch them here. Here we go. Starting off with the... I don't know the order for these packs. I think it's probably going to be the normal. This is the new token style. I have to say I really like the new tokens. Kind of ruined all my old tokens. But if you've never seen a Magic the Gathering booster pack opening before, I will show you. First off, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different commons, which are not interesting to us. We're not going to look at them. We have 3 uncommons, and since there's not very many uncommons in the set worth anything, we're not going to look at them. We're going right directly to the back to look for rares and foils. That's what we're going to be looking for here. Rabid, thanks. 1 for Sammy and 1 for you and 1 for your blank. Appreciate you, Rabid. So here we have Stone Coil Serpent. This is an X casting cost artifact with reach, trample, and protection from multicolor. Stone Coil Serpent enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So this guy is really pushed. We've seen a lot of artifact creatures with an X casting cost in Magic's history. This one I think is the most pushed one so far. So it's going to fill out a lot of curves. Will show up in some aggro decks, some ramp decks. Reach, trample, and protection from multicolored. Very, very pushed. So I do like them. And then we do have a foil here. If you have not seen one of these cards, I'll explain an adventure card to you because I think it's important you understand them. Over on the left-hand side, we have Curry Favor, where it's a sorcery and you can gain X life. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. And then this guy goes in exile, or goes on an adventure. That's the idea. And then you can play him out of exile, or from the adventure, and bring him into play as a 2/1. So you kind of get a 2-for-1. It's a new take on split cards, but unlike most split cards, these new adventure cards are really good. And I'll tell you what I like about these adventure cards, but what I don't like about these adventure cards is the fact that they did not do enough with them. And it's really frustrating to me, because I really wanted them to do more with adventure cards. That's the problem with not having a block structure. We won't see adventure back for years. So kind of frustrating. Here's the Lochmere Serpent. Now, if you haven't clued in on this, this is a high fantasy base set. This is clearly supposed to be the Loch Ness Monster. So black, blue, and 4 for a creature Serpent, 7/7 with flash. You can spend a blue to sacrifice an island, and it can't be blocked. Spend a black and sacrifice a swamp. You gain a life and draw a card. For a black and blue, you can exile 5 target cards from an opponent's graveyard. Return this Serpent from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability anytime you could cast a sorcery. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Oh, we have another foil in here, and it is our foil rare right off the bat. That's interesting. We have Giant Killer. This is, of course, Jack the Giant Killer, or Jack and the Beanstalk, that storyline. For 1 white, he's a 1/2 that can tap target creature for white and 1. You can also use white and 2 for instant. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. So you can kill a giant and then tap down creatures later. What's really interesting, and you'll notice this, we hopefully will see several cards. There are several cards that refer to Jack and the Beanstalk, so I guess maybe they just developed multiple cards and decided to go with all of them. That's kind of weird. Here we have the Fei of Wishes, blue and 1 for granted. Blue and 3 for granted, sorcery. You may choose a non-creature card you own from outside of the game, reveal it, and put it in your hand. So if you have a sideboard built, you can get something off your sideboard, basically. And for 4 mana at sorcery speed. Then you can also, at flying, blue and 1, discard 2 cards, return Fei of Wishes to owner's hand, so you can send it on an adventure again. So that's actually really interesting design. Really interesting card. Again, I love this set, and I love what they've done with this fairy tale set. I just wish they'd done more of it. I wish there were more cards. All right, while you are looking at this card, while I read it to you, I want you to look at the art and try to see if you can tell me in chat or on the description box what this art is supposed to resemble. Obviously supposed to resemble a flying castle called Castle Lochthwain. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp. Tapped to add a black for a black, black, and 1. Draw a card, then lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. That is... Somebody says Magic Lamp. Somebody says Genie Lamp. Somebody says Star Destroyer. Yes! It is a Star Destroyer. How crazy is that? It was inspired by a Star Destroyer in the Star Wars universe. Very cool little Easter egg. The artist confirmed that on the subreddit, so that's a really cool one. Really, really like the art in the set. Should we do that? Should we go ahead and do the, should we do the collector's pack? Let's save it. Sorcerer's Broom. I know this has been a fantasy for a long time, but I think of it as Mickey's Broom in a lot of ways. That's an interesting foil, though. Here's our rare Castle Ardenvel. There's a castle for each color. Castle Ardenvel is the white one. Comes into the play tapped unless you control a plains, and then taps for white, and then for white, white, and 2, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Not as quite as pushed as the black one, for sure, but that's okay. I would rather that have been 3 in tap, I think, or maybe if the creature had lifelink, it would have done something else. So this, I think, is just your classic gargoyle. I don't think he's supposed to be a specific gargoyle, but maybe I'm wrong, but... We have a blue and 1 for a 5/4 flying artifact creature. Has flying. Can't attack unless the defending player has 7 or more cards in their graveyard. So he's slowish. You know, I think that is supposed to represent like him waking up at the 7 card point. Can't block unless you have 4 or more cards in hand. And each tap to each player puts the top card of the library into their graveyard. So an interesting take on a gargoyle. Again. Not an amazing card, but I like the theming. Again, I really like the theming. Here we have one of the multicolored uncommon cycles. We're going back to Eldraine in the next set, by the way. Or it's not Eldraine. What is the enchantment set? The one that had Devotion? I can't remember right now. What is the set? Jeez, what is the set? Somebody tell me in chat. Anyway, these cards seem to be plants for that. But there's the Loch Dragon. So, a rare Gadwick the Wizened. Now, again, this is obviously a plant for Theros. That's it. That's somebody says in chat. Thank you very much, Wolf Event. Blue, blue, and blue, and X for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, draw X cards. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls.
Charles see his friends because Hess married.
Oh. Why can't Ray Charles see his friends? Because he's married. Oh, that's funny. Ozzy, thanks for 56 months of support. I appreciate you, my friend. Gadwick the Wizened. This is a cool card. I like that guy. I like that entire cycle, except the white one, because Magic the Gathering never gives white cards that great of spells anymore. I don't understand why. Here's another blue artifact. This one's really interesting. So a blue and 1 for players have no maximum hand size artifact. But for XX, each player draws X cards. For 2 in blue, each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand from the top of their library into the graveyard. If you like to play Mill, I'm sorry. But if you do, also, this card exists for you. But here's the thing. I see a lot of people mocking Mill players who want to win by milling, and I'm going to mock you too. But here's the thing. Milling also has a backup strategy of animating out of libraries, and I think that card really has its uses in that regard. Getting fuel to animate out of graveyards. Here's a really interesting design. Red and 3 enchantment. You can cast spells only during your turn, and you can cast no more than 2 spells each turn. Play this one and then another one, for example, or then play 2 spells the next turn. You may cast spells with converted mana costs less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana costs. So this is Mana Flare, kind of. It doubles the amount of mana, except it limits the number of spells you have. Except also you can play 2 spells for free and then tap your lands to pay an activation cost. Kicker costs, I think you can use it to pay kicker costs as well. Yeah, really interesting. I don't know how it would work with an X spell, but somebody played that against me in standard ranked, and I was just surprised by that. I don't really know what... I don't know, that's a weird design. I like weird designs. Here we have the Midnight Clock. Don't want to get demonetized, so I'm going to pronounce the word clock very clearly. Midnight Clock. Tap for a blue. 3 mana for an artifact. Tap for a blue. You can also spend 2 in blue to put an hour counter on this. When the clock strikes midnight, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards, exile this. So after 12, you get to put a counter on it whenever you want to, and you can also put a counter at the beginning of each upkeep. So eventually, 12 turns later, good multiplayer, I would feel, and allows you to get all your cards. So back, that's interesting. Interesting design on that card. Again, when the clock strikes midnight, something, something, something from every Fable ever. Fable Elder, this is another tree folk. Green, white, and 1. Has vigilance. Gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. Tap for each color among permanents you control. Add 1 mana of that color. I don't know if this represents something in fairy tale lore. I just kind of like it. It's just a nice card. You know? It's just a cute little card. It's definitely very useful. All right, here's one of my favorite cards from the set. You guys are going to love this one if you haven't seen it yet. This is the Love-Struck Beast. It is a Beast Noble. I wish it was a Noble Beast, but they do that alphabetically, so it's a Beast Noble. But for 3 mana, you get a 5/5. Now, he's got a adventure where for 1 green, he creates a 1/1 human creature token. Of course, he's exiled. And then he can come into play after that out of exile for playing the regular cast. And then he can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. Does anybody know what this represents? This is Beauty and the Beast. This is Beauty and the Beast. Yes, it is. Oh my God, this is a cool card. So if there's not a human for him to be in love with, he's just going to be a recluse and stay in his castle. But if there's a 1/1 human creature that exists, or any 1/1, he will go out and protect that 1/1. Doesn't have to be a human. I wish it did have to be a human, but whatever. He'll protect the squirrel. He doesn't give a shit. Also, really interesting fact, according to the rules, if he gets turned into a 1/1 himself, then he can attack because he learns to love himself. That's actually in the rule book. That's actually in the rule book. That's really amusing to me, so kind of love that. Here we have, oh yes, our first alternative art card. I wasn't sure how they were doing these alternative art cards, so here we have our first alternative art card. It is Fei of Wishes, which we've already seen, but as you can tell, it has what they are calling the fairy tale frame. I'm looking for my other Fei of Wishes so I can show you the difference side by side. Wow, I love this card. So cool. Barely looks like a Magic card, but if I'm being honest with you, Magic's always been about the fantasy theme, and the modern frame has always seemed very much less fantastical to me. This frame seems so much more fantastical. I wish they would use this frame or one like it way more frequently. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is probably going to be the thumbnail for my video as well. My God, I love that. I just need to get one of every... I will buy another case of the set if I have to. I don't care. Because I need as many of these alternative arts as I can get. They are fantastic. Love those showcase cards, man. The lottery cards are back, boys, in a different form. Woo! Speaking of which, here's our first mythic from the set. Now, this is from I think a German folklore thing. Green, and 2. He's the questing beast. He's a 4/4 with vigilance, death touch, and haste. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage to be dealt by creatures you control cannot be prevented. And this deals combat damage to opponent. It deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls. That is one loaded green card, boys. If you're going to play with green creatures that attack, this is the one. Forecast cost 4/4, vigilant, death touch, haste. Can't be blocked by small dudes. Combat damage to be dealt can't be prevented, including from other creatures as well. And he wrecks planeswalkers if he hits a player. Doesn't have trample, which if I'm being honest, makes me a little sad because another big guy can get in the way. I wish he had trample, but I mean, little guys can't block him, so trample's not that important anyway. Kind of feel like I wish he had trample so he had an excuse to buff him. I mean, he's just so pushed as it is. Like, why am I complaining? That's one of the biggest fat pains we've ever seen in Magic the Gathering history. So I don't know. I can't complain about it. Giant Solifuge does what exactly? Right? There's our first. There's another foil. Full common. Not that interesting. Here's our rare. Again, there's an entire cycle of these tri-casting cost cards to replace the ones from Dominaria. Torban, Throne of Redfell. Red, and 1, 2, 4. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Now, let me talk about that for a second. Obviously, for red, and 1, you can also get Furnace of Wrath, which doubles the amount of damage that's being done. So they're very different effects, though. This is not Furnace of Wrath on a creature. I like this guy in a Goblin / Weenie deck that has a lot of 1/1s, because now those 1/1s are getting +2/+0, effectively, right? Also, if you're using something like a Storm card like Grape Shot does 3 instead of 1.
666,666,666.
Man, Rally, thanks for 66 months of support. I really appreciate you, man.
66,666.
Thank you, my friend. So, they're very different cards. I saw people comparing it to Furnace of Wrath. Furnace of Wrath is clearly better. Furnace of Wrath is different. Also, Furnace of Wrath is symmetrical. Your opponent doubles their damage as well, and it's not just red sources. So, it's a completely different effect. And I think in some situations you're going to use him and like him better. Also, he's a dwarf noble. Here we have Black Lance Paragon for a black and 1 for a 3/1 flash. When it enters the battlefield, target knight gains Death Touch and lifelink until end of turn. We see this pretty often in tribal synergies. We saw it with pirates. Now we're seeing it with knights. Just basically flashes in and gives somebody Death Touch. And in this case, lifelink as well. Meh. It'll probably see some play in some knight-based deck. I'm not particularly excited about it. 3/1's a little weak, can get blocked by literally any goblin ever. So here we have Iron Crag Feast. Another really interesting take on your Dark Ritual style card. So we have red, and 1 for a sorcery. Add 7 red. You can cast only 1 more spell this turn. So if you have 4 mana, you can turn into 7 red, and then use that 7 red to cast 1 big spell. You combine it with some of the other red spells that, the Dark Ritual variants. I still think of them as Dark Rituals, even though black doesn't get fast mana. Red does now, which is weird to me. It was always black in my mind. But anyway, long story short, Iron Crag Feast allows you to feast on 1 big spell. I don't know what this is going to see play anywhere, especially because of the red casting cost, but it seems not broken. You only get a 3 mana boost, which is bigger than you would get with Dark Ritual, obviously, because Dark Ritual is only a 2 mana boost. But here's one of my favorite knights of the set. Now, when we talk tribal, this is my kind of tribal right here. Acclaimed contender for a white and 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another knight. I wish it was just when he came into the battlefield. But if you control another knight, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a knight, aura, equipment, or legendary artifact card from among them. Put them into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in your random order. So look at 5 cards and pick one of legendary artifact, equipment, aura, or knight. I'm going to pick one of those. That's a weird spread, isn't it? That's a very weird spread. It's got to be a legendary artifact, has to be a knight, has to be an aura, or has to be an equipment. And what I think is interesting about this is when I first read it, I thought it was legendary or artifact. It would make sense it was just a legendary card if he was the squire for a legendary, and he went and got a legendary. But then we have all these Lancers to do that, I suppose. And that is technically better. But again, I felt like it should be a squire. Maybe that's what it was in testing. I like that version, though. It's still very good. I've got it in the deck already in Arena Standard. Here we have Opportunistic Dragon. Red, and 2 for a 4/3 flyer. This is not very pushed. I mean, forecast costs 4/3 flyer. You can see that in uncommon, even in red. But enters the battlefield, choose target human or artifact an opponent controls. For as long as this remains on the battlefield, gain control of that permanent, loses all its abilities, and can't not attack or block. So it becomes basically a nothing that can't interact with the rest of the field. It's literally a prisoner. This dragon goes and imprisons either an artifact or a human and holds him prisoner for as long as he's out. Now, that can really make a big difference. In a game, especially with a 4/3 flyer beating things. I wish this had haste. I wish this was more pushed to be along the lines of the other forecasting cost flying creatures we've seen in red across the years. But I like the idea behind it. I like the feel behind it. Just don't think it's going to see a tremendous amount of play, but I do like it. Here's the thing. When you've been playing Magic for 25 years, you will critique almost every little card. But you got to remember, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a guy who's been playing Magic for 25 years. It's not like I designed the game or anything. Here we have the Iron Crag Pyromancer for a red and 2. Now, I want to talk about this art because some people have found this art to be controversial, but let's focus on the card first. For red and 2, for 0/4, whenever you draw your second card each turn, Iron Crag Pyromancer deals 3 damage to any target. Howling Mine, anybody? Okay, this is a good card. I mean, it lightning bolts every second card you draw. Free lightning bolt every turn. That's what she does. The art is controversial because there's a heavy set woman on the card. That's why other people find it to be controversial. I don't find that to be controversial. Some people say that putting fat people on Magic cards or fat people in media glorifies being fat. And I don't think this woman is being glorified in any way. And yes, being fat is unhealthy, so we don't want to encourage people to be fat, but some people are fat, and this woman happens to be very large, and that's okay. It's okay to represent that on the card. Stop clutching your pearls. It's okay. That's not why I find this card controversial. Here's why I find this card controversial. When you see the high-res version of this art, it looks pretty good on a card. But when you see the art on digital, it just doesn't look very good. It's one of the many cards we've seen lately in Magic that, especially compared to the storybook cards, the art just looks like it's photoshopped badly. So, no offense, I'm glad that they put a heavy person on the card. I got nothing but love and support for that. Put fat people on cards. I'm still mad we don't have really a fat guy on a card. Give me a fat dude. Like 80% of your player base is big, fat, and neck-bearded dudes. Put one of us on a Magic card, okay? But that said, I have no problem with a fat woman being on a Magic card, and I don't know why anybody would. What I do have a problem with is those kites in the background look kind of goofy. Those little fire kites just don't look good. But if you are the kind of person that's offended by that, let me know. I don't know why you're so easily offended, but if you're offended by that, let me know in the comment section, because that's just weird to me. Here we have the Royal Scions, our second mythic from this box. Blue, red, and 1 for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. It's Will and Rowan. We saw these guys in the Two-Headed Giant set. I forget what it's called. Arena or something like that. Draw a card, then discard a card for +1. That's a pretty good +1 for 3 mana. Target creature, and that will obviously trigger anything that needs your second card drawn. So that's just a good card for the set. +1, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample till end of turn. Doesn't do much to protect you, so not much there. And then the -8 is draw 4 cards. When you do, the Royal Scion deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. So it's a good card. Again, planeswalkers that don't protect themselves are not particularly interesting to me. I like planeswalkers that protect themselves. That's what I want in a planeswalker. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wow. All right, well, it's only the uncommon, but it's just such a cool pull. Look at this. Oakham Ranger. Green, white, green, white, green, white, green, white. That's hybrid casting cost for a 2/2. Elf Knight, so relevant creature types. The adventure is the same casting cost. Create 2/1/1 white human tokens, and then for itself, it's a 2/2 that creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. It's not a great card, but God, the art, that frame is gorgeous. Wow, the foiling. Oh, this is my first foil storybook card, and I love it. Here we have the Gilded Goose that laid the golden egg. 1 green for a 0/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token. Yes, Magic the Gathering now has food tokens. You know I like it because I'm a fat guy and we now have food tokens. Green and 0/2. I told you they know who our target demographic is. Here's a little hint. The next time you are playing Magic the Gathering at your local gaming store, use Twinkies to represent your food tokens. And when you consume one, eat it. Now you can spend a green and 1 to create a food token. And it also comes in play with a food token. And then you can tap it to sacrifice a food to add 1 mana of any color. So yeah, you gotta. It's pretty much it's pretty much unnamed goose game here. Honk honk, honk honk. Rake in the lake. Can we get a hashtag rake in the lake in chat, boys? Can we get a hashtag rake in the lake in chat? I haven't played that game yet. But let's rake in the lake is a go. First one to get the rake in the lake wins $1 million. Stay out of the hot picks with 31 months of support. But yeah, back in my day, we bolted the bird. Now we shock the goose. Some Magic nostalgia for you. Bolt the bird. Always bolt the bird. Now you got to shock the goose. When will they print a 1 casting cost 1/1 monkey that taps for a mana of any color, so we can shock the monkey. That would be really cool, Wizards of the Coast. Please steal my idea. Thank you. You can have that one for free. Stolen by the Fei. I've used this card in Limited, and it's a blowout. For a blue, and X, sorcery, glad it's not an instant because it's too powerful at an instant, I think. Return target creature with converted mana cost X to its owner's hand. Then you create X 1/1 blue fairy tokens. They play a 3/3. You bounce the 3/3 and you get 3 fairies. What is happening? That is what? Okay, all right. I will go to there now. Now again, admittedly, you got to tap out. It's sorcery speed. Costs 2 extra blue. Blah 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 blah. This card seems pushed to me. I like that card. I don't play a lot of blue, but if I open that in sealed or limited or draft, I sure do. Boy, let me tell you. All day, every day. There's a foil opt. I like this opt art. Very cool. I might opt to play with that one. Here we have another card that I consider to be controversial, and we're gonna rant. This is the longer unboxing. We will do shorter unboxings than this one, but for this one, I want to rant. So let's rant. This is Fable Passage. It is a land. It taps to sacrifice Fable Passage. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Then if you control 4 more lands, untap that land. This is a bad fetch land, and it is still a fetch land, and if you use it, you have to shuffle your library. And Wizards of the Coast has said they don't like shuffling in their standard tournaments anymore, so they don't really want to reprint the Shocklands. Here's what I think. I think this is a sign that they are going to be reprinting the Shocklands in the next Theros set, probably the enemy shocks. So if you own them, I would recommend unloading them now. If you got $90, $100 Scalding Tarns and that you are willing to sell, I would recommend trading them or selling them now, because this is an obvious sign to me. This is an obvious sign to me. Did I say shock? I meant fetch lands. Not shocks, but fetch lands. I think they're absolutely going to be bringing back fetch lands in Theros. It seems pretty obvious. Not shock lands. I meant fetches. I apologize. So, yeah, kind of... And it's not particularly good. I think they could have printed the fetch land variant that gets basics. That was in Modern Horizons. That could have been in Standard without really interrupting much. But they didn't. We got this one instead. And that's fine. I get that Standard is supposed to be watered down cards, but wow. We have the Roving Keep. That's a moving castle. I guess that's probably a story trope. We have the Witch's Vengeance. Sorcery for a black, and 1, and creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3/-3 till end of turn. This is a simple steam valve for your tribal decks, probably most notably Knights, which is interesting because it's also the same color as Knights, so you can run it in Knights to kill an opposing tribe like Goblins. Interesting. We always see one of these types of variants. That was one of the weirdest variants we've seen in a while, so I kind of like that one. Here we have the Wicked Wolf. Could represent several different storylines. Here we have the Wicked Wolf. Green, and 2 for a 3/3. When Wicked Wolf enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Sacrifice a food. Put a +1/+1 counter on this. It gains indestructible till end of turn. Tap it. So, when it enters the battlefield, if you already have a food token in play, you can put the fight trigger on the stack, sack a food, it'll be tapped. It'll get a +1/+1 counter, and it also gains indestructible, and it'll be tapped, so it can't block. It seems decent in the food deck, if the food deck comes along. But again, since we only have one food set, I don't think we're going to see food in Theros. We might, but there's just not enough food cards to go around, in my opinion. Here we have a foil Belle of the Brawl. And you know what I just noticed? I just noticed that I got a storybook framed card in the uncommons. So the bulk in this set may not be exclusively bulk. I didn't realize that the uncommons and maybe the commons could also get storybook cards. Wow, that's cool. So I'll have to go through all my commons and uncommons later to see if we got one. That's cool. That is really cool. Okay, all right. So once again, we have... Oh, no, this is... I thought this was the Knight. But no, this is Happily Ever After. That's how every fairy tale ever ends. Happily Ever After until they die miserably of cancer and whatever miserable shit that... Because nobody ever lives happily ever after. But that's what we like to pretend in our stories. For a white and 2, you have an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, each player gains 5 life and draws a card. That's happy. Everybody's happy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 5 colors among permanents you control and also 6 or more card type permanents you control and or cards in your graveyard and your life total is greater or equal than your starting life total, you win the game. Yep. You got to do a lot. And maybe you might just play it as a white and 1, gain 5 life, and we both gain life. We both gain 5 life and both draw a card. Maybe you play it as that. But also, if you got all 5 colors in play, and all 6 card types in play in graveyard, and also your life total is higher than your starting total, you win the game. There's easier ways to win the game, folks. But if you want to do that, go right ahead. I might bolt him in the face a bunch of times. That might also work. Attack with a bunch of creatures. But hey, people like stuff like that. Here's my favorite card of the set. Yeah, not necessarily to play with, but this is my favorite flavor. I want you to shout out loud or type in the chat or type into the comment section as soon as you know what this card represents. Here we go. Black, black, and 1. It is a human knight. The Oathsworn Knight. Enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Attacks each combat in the evil. He always attacks. Okay? He's relentless. If damage would be dealt to this while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from it. The first time it gets wounded, it loses an arm. Then it loses another arm. Then it loses a leg. Then it loses another leg. Yes, it's Monty Python's The Black Knight. Yes, it just keeps going, baby. How cool. It's only a flesh wound. Even when it gets killed, it's only a flesh wound. How amazing is that? I love this card. This is one of the best designed cards in years. I want to play with this card every chance I get. I love him. I mean, he's pushed too. Don't get me wrong. He's really pushed. It's just a flesh wound. Interesting fact. There's a card called Inquisition of Kozilek. Goes for like $5 or $6 these days, but the Spanish language variant of it seems to go for about 3 times the price of the base version because no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. True story. That's how nerdy Magic players are. Redley, thanks for the $3.
Wanted to stop by and say I'm enjoying your latest videos so much.
Thank you, Ridley.
The gaming news is the best. I love you so much.
Thank you so much, my friend.
To express how much you help me on a daily basis.
Oh, Ridley, I'm so grateful to hear that, my friend. And hey, if you haven't checked out my videos, if you're watching this unboxing, haven't checked out my gaming videos on the main channel recently, I think you'd be proud. I think I'm really putting some effort into them, so that's new for me, putting effort into videos. Here we have Mirror Maid, Mirror, Mirror on the wall, blue, blue, and 1. You may have Mirror Maid enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. Look into the mirror, make a copy of it. And it can be an artifact or enchantment. Any artifact or enchantment. So it's copy artifact, it's also copy enchantment, all built into one. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't know what's going to get played, but it's pretty cool. Copy artifact does see play. Copies a lot of soul rings, I would imagine, in this world. Ooh, you have a foil rare. 2 foil rares out of this box. Excellent. That's pretty rare for me. I never see 2 foil rares. Here we have the Fervent Champion. For a red, a 1/1 first strike haste. When it attacks another attacking knight, you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Equip abilities you activate that target this cost 3 less to activate. That's a pretty cool foil. I feel like he'll probably see play in mono red. If mono red is a thing. He might see play in Rakdos Knights as well, or Mardu Knights. Hard to say. Hard to say right now. Oh! And weirdly, our non-foil is also him. So they really want me to play Fervent Knights. and I don't know if he's good. I feel like he's fine. It's another attacking knight. So he's obviously 1/1. First strike for 1 with haste. Equip abilities. Really, what good equipment are there, right? Yeah, Fervent Champion. They really want me to play a Fervent Knight deck, I guess. All right, Wizards of the Coast. I'm listening. I will do it. Here we have Imri, Lurker of the Loch. This is the creature or the princess or the merfolk that gets the sword for King Arthur. Is it King Arthur that gets the sword? Rico thanks for 2 months of support in a row. So blue and 2 for a 1/2. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. When this enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. You can tap it to choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that spell this turn. So, let's go from the top. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. She likes artifacts. She's only 1/2, so that's good. When she enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard. So she fills your graveyard for you, which is useful. And then she can tap to choose target artifact card from your graveyard, and then you can play it from your graveyard that turn. So she's not exactly card draw. She's got to tap to do her abilities. So, I don't know if she's pushed enough. She's well designed though. But yeah, Lady of the Lake. Somebody says in chat, yes, she's the Lady of the Lake. Very cool. Didn't King Arthur's sword come out of a stone? Did they do that? Is that something we see in this set? I don't know if we have the sword in the stone anywhere. We have Escape to the Wilds for red and green and 3, and this card seems underpowered to me. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may play cards. Exile this way until the end of turn. You may play an additional land this turn. So for 5 mana, you're probably going to ramp a land. You at least have that. It's probably going to come into play untapped. And then if you have small stuff, or if you had a buttload of mana, you can play the other cards. Maybe 1 or 2 if you have something that costs 0, or maybe 1 or 2. You might get a couple cards out of it. You know, you might get a couple cards out of it. It seems underpowered to me, though. Now, if we untapped our lands when we did it, ooh, could you imagine? Hey, here is our next mythic. This card's interesting. So, this reminds me of the card with Kicker a lot. For 5 and white, you have the 7/7 Vigilance, but also has the adventure of 5 mana, destroy all non-giant creatures. And as you've seen, we haven't opened a lot of very playable giants. So you could do giant tribal if you want to. This is probably just the Wrath variant for the set. And it's a really good Wrath variant because not only that, but you get a finisher in the terms of a 7/7 giant. And this art is killer because that giant clearly is a mountain. It was a sleeping mountain. So the story that this card tells to me is that the giant wakes up and kills all the other non-giants that are setting on its back. And then gets up and walks around as a giant 7/7 Vigilant. Weird it doesn't have some trample. I guess it's so big, but yeah, whatever. It's going to get blocked by 1/1s. Maybe that represents how slow it is, right? Because it's so slow, people were living on its back. That's pretty slow, right? Pretty slow critter. Here we have Return of the Wild Speaker. That's right, everybody. Garrick is back. That was so telegraphed by the folks over at Wizard of the Coast, but Return of the Wild Speaker for a green and 4. Choose 1. Draw a card equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn, and also trample, right? No? Shit. Okay. So I don't really like either half of this card, but it is a story-based card telling us that Garrick is back, and he is not bad no more. He's no more cursed and trying to kill all the planeswalkers. Garrick is not a bad boy no more. Garrick is good boy. Okay. That's good to know. We're down to 2 packs, and then we have the super awesome Eldraine pack. The super awesome collector's pack. That's where the money should be. Ooh, another Jack the Giant Killer. Killing giants all day long. That's racist. Don't be killing only giants, Jack. You should tap down all kinds of creatures. Okay, I will. All right, thank you, Jack. Here we go. Final pack until we get to our collector's pack. Here we go. Big money, big money, big money. We will have, by the way, if you stick around and follow me here on Twitch, if you follow me here on Boogie Plays, you will get to eventually see an entire box. I think it's 16 packs of Throne of Eldraine. I do have that ordered. It is coming in. I will have it at some point. Here we have a foil Ardenvale Tactician, 2/3 flyer with the, that's a limited fodder card. And our last rare is Castle Vantress. I don't know what this one's supposed to represent. I remember the artist saying it represented something. But here we have, enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control an island, taps for blue, for 2, blue, tap to scry 2. Seems okay in a control deck. At the end of their turn, if you didn't have to counter something, spend 4 mana, scry 2. That seems good. It's not overpowered. It's not crazy. It just seems good. That seems to be the case for all these lands. They were afraid to push them too much, I feel like. Looks like Dalaran in World of Warcraft. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Here we go, boys. These booster packs are worth how much? $20 each? $30, $40 each? And it's possible to get a $100 card out of here. Should this be its own separate video? No. No. This is for those of you who gave me the watch time, who stuck around through this 20, 30-minute long video, stuck around on Twitch just to see it. Here we go. Let's enjoy it. Oh, we're not going to get to open very many of these in our lifetime because they are far too expensive. And even though I waste money like water, I will not waste them on this. but it's a chance we're going to make our money back. That's called gambling. Hooray. Here we go. We're going to go through this pack very slowly. It's going to be filled mostly with showcase cards, storybook cards, foils, foil tokens in the back as well. So here we have a foil common, Sport Cap Spider. Not interesting. A foil common adventure card, black and 1. Gain X life, equal to the number of knights you control, and opponent loses X life. I wish this drew cards as well. It'd be very pushed if it was, though. Wonderful storybook art. Love that. Or I have a foil Searing Barrage, 5 mana for 5 damage. Lava Axe variant. Here's a counter spell I do just kind of like. Don't know that it's pushed enough to really see play anywhere. Didn't Say Please for a blue and 1. Counter target spell as controller puts the top 3 cards of the library into their graveyard. I just like Didn't Say Please and the fact she's tying up his mouth. And it's a little fairy doing it. I think this is just a cool design. You didn't say please. I was wondering if they would ever use that as a magic card. And they finally did. Prophet of the Peak, 6 casting cost, 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. Sorry, do anything that's worth caring about. Merrileaf Rider, it is an elf, 2 mana, 3/1, sacrifice of food, and target creature blocks this turn of Fable, Luxus if this turn of Fable. True Love's Kiss for white, and 2, exile target artifact or enchantment, allows you to draw a card as well. And I think it's pretty interesting that they chose to draw a female kissing the male who's turned to stone or sleep or whatever. I really like that. That's kind of cool. I really like the little gender swap there. Here we have one of the more powerful uncommons from the set. Green and 2 for legendary creature human knight. When it attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X, where X is this creature's power. A card we would normally see at rare, I would feel like. This is an uncommon in the set, so that's kind of cool. Here we have Inspiring Veteran, red-white for a 2/2. Other knights you control get +1/+1 for probably Mardu knights there. Ooh, here is a storybook, non-foil storybook, or showcase, animating fairy. Blue and 2 for a 2/2 flyer, but also sorcery adventure. Target non-creature artifacts you control becomes a 0/0 artifact creature. Put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Excellent art. Look at her turning, what is that, a pot into a creature? Or, I'm not sure. We got this one in the regular box as well. Okame Ranger, storybook variant, not foil. Reaper of the Night for black and 5. That's Reaper of the NIGHT, not KNIGHT. Harvest Fear for black and 3. Target opponent discards 2 cards. He's underwhelming. He's pretty underwhelming for an uncommon, I feel. Here's a non-foil land. Ooh. Oh, all right. Well, maybe a swing and a miss here. Our extended art or box topper or whatever you want to call this style, Pharaoh Burrow Elder. We pulled him in the regular box as well. Like I said, I'm underwhelmed by this card. It might see play. It's definitely kind of I don't know. He's a decent ramp card. I think I'm trying to do like some sort of bias because I opened this of it, so I want it to be better than I think it is. Not a bad pool. Not a bad little pool. There is a foil rare Dance of the Manse or Mance Man. I don't know. Return up to X target artifacts and/or creature and/or non-aura enchantment cards, each with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard. If the X is 6 or more, those permanents are 4/4 creatures in addition to the other types. I mean, that's really powerful. It's a very powerful ability. You're going to get a bunch of stuff. And then our foil token is Giant. So here's where I'm going to complain about these collector's boosters. They are overpriced for what you get. There's a really solid chance that you're going to get something incredible. And certainly if you're looking to collect a set, you will need all of these cards. But we didn't really open anything particularly valuable. So if you spent $20 or $30 or $40 on one of these collector packs, you are SOL. My recommendation when it comes to these collector packs is very, very simple. You should let idiots like me open up, or Star City Games, or Rudy, or Alpha Investments. Let somebody else open up these boosters, and then buy the singles that you want, okay? Don't go out, I mean, support your local gaming store, and if you've got money to burn, feel free to buy that collector booster box from them. Buy 5 of them, buy 10 of them, support your local gaming store. But that said, there are other ways to do that, including buying the singles you need at your local gaming store at the place that you play, and I hope that you choose to do that as well. And if you really need to scratch that itch, don't forget, we'll be doing unboxings here all season long of Eldraine, collectors, boosters, things along the lines. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. I love you very much. I'll speak with you again soon.